Hey guys, welcome back to the At the Coffee Table podcast. I am Jason Klink, and today I am joined by Kara Judd of Manlius Fire Department. Kara, you are in Manlius, right? Am I saying that right?
No, I'm in Cazenovia.
Cazenovia, that's what I meant to say. So Kara's a firefighter in Cazenovia Fire Department. For some reason, I had Manlius stuck in my head. But Kara is a certified fitness instructor and a wellness and nutrition coach, and she mainly works with firefighters and first responders across central New York. Kara, thanks for joining me here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I asked Kara to jump on the podcast. This is kind of a topic that's close to me, something that I've tried to promote myself with my colleagues that are still in the fire service. I know I'm well removed these days, but I started in the fire service where you just had a physical every year, and the physical was, okay, you can breathe, move along,
right,
and height and weight, and that was the end of it. And I've seen a real need to improve on that. Over the 25 years that I was doing it, it has gotten better from what I can tell, as far as trying to keep firefighters not only physically fit, but mentally fit. And I think that's a real big part of that. So what got you motivated to kind of jump into this, physical fitness space?
Well, when I started out as a firefighter, I thought that I was pretty fit. I was a runner, avid runner. I'd done some half marathons and did some, kind of boot camp style workouts and fitness classes and things like that, and thought I was in pretty good shape. And then I started doing a lot of active firefighting work and found out that I wasn't in the kind of shape that I needed to be in to be a fireman.
Right.
So it's a big difference. And I started to really look into functional fitness training for firemen. I read a wonderful book, Firefighter Functional Fitness, by Dan Kerrigan and Jim Moss. Mm-hmm. And it really was so exciting. It really lit a fire in me to continue to pursue it. And so as I started to kind of go down the rabbit hole of fitness in the fire service, I discovered that any year, somewhere between 40 to 50% of line of duty deaths are related to poor cardiac health or medical issues. So wow. I think there's a big mindset that line of duty deaths are, building collapse and not being able to get out, entrapment, things mm-hmm. like that. Obviously vehicle hazards. I don't think that the cardiac and medical portion is as well known about or right. as well talked about as the other line of duty deaths. And if we're pushing those high of numbers for line of duty deaths, I feel like we really should be having more conversations about it and raising more awareness to it, because, anytime you're doing your report for a line of duty death, it's going to say, like, what are some mitigating factors that could have been done? And proactively managing our health and wellness is something that you can do every day to reduce the risk of that line of duty death. So that became my mission. That's why I started St. Florian Fitness, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I tried to post functional fitness workouts mm-hmm. That are accessible to anybody. I try to, educate. I started a seminar series, and I started going out to fire departments and coaching and training, working with firemen. And it's been an amazing experience.
That's fantastic. And, it's just, and if there's firefighters out there, and it doesn't really matter how long you've been in the business, if you've never read through a line of duty death report, you should read through a line of duty death report, because it really gives you an insight on not only things that failed, and it could be policies, it could be operations, it could be, strategies and tactics. But it also talks about, the good and the bad, but it's also going to talk about how you can improve things. And I right. think that's the number one takeaway is how can we improve these things? And, I remember from my time that, from my time it was, and I sound like an old guy, it was, cardiac. That was the number one killer of firemen or firefighters was cardiac. And it used to bug the crap out of me when you would see a line of duty death And it was because they went to a call, they went to a fire, they went to an incident, and either they came back and laid in their rack and died, or for the volunteers, they came home, they cleaned up, they went home and laid in their bed and died because of cardiac failure. And that shouldn't happen.
Right. Right. I think there's a huge educational gap for what that is.
So, and then I think about, so now I've seen a real push from like the Syracuse Fire Department in early cancer screenings because of some firefighters retiring and then dying of cancer.
Right.
And, you know, so now we got cardiac and health and well-being, and now we add in the cancer factor has always been there.
Right.
And I don't know if you remember these, but you know, it used to be you had stature, you had status if you had the dirtiest gear and the dirtiest helmet in the firehouse.
Right. And
now we look at it and go, how stupid was that?
Right. You're taking it everywhere with you, and you're bringing it home to your household, and, you know, exposing everybody else to those carcinogens. And I mean, also, you know, you have to look at building construction, and you have to look at the contents of what's in people's homes now versus years and years and years ago, and what's burning and what you're breathing in. And, you know, it used to be, not necessarily, because I'm fairly a baby comparatively for firefighting. I've only been in 6 years, but, you know, it used to be that even for overhaul, it wasn't a normal thing or an encouraged thing to wear your air pack when you're doing overhaul. And that's when you're really burning in those off gases, or breathing in those off gases really, and exposing yourself even more. So, you know, that wasn't something that was practiced. I mean, my dad was a lieutenant on the department that I'm in. And, you know, I can remember his gear was like 3/4 boots and like he was like a blue jeans firefighter, you know, and like, we didn't have air packs. We didn't use air packs, you know? So, you know, it's definitely a progression, but, and I think that sometimes it's hard for, firefighters to swallow, especially if they've been in a long time, because, you know, they hate the saying is they hate the way things are and they hate change. But really, if you're looking at the type of fires that we're fighting now, it's just very different. You know, it's not wood and natural materials. So you have to kind of keep with the times.
I just replayed all the fires in my head where the smoke was banked down to here. And we went, it's all right. And you know, keep doing overhaul. To where, you know, my last 5 or 10 years, it was, all right, we got to meter the building first before we can take off our air packs. And that became it for good reasons. That became standard operating. Yeah, it's, you know, and I just had a conversation yesterday with a former colleague of mine talking about how the fire service tries to evolve, and it tries to become digital, or, you know, YouTube firefighter, or whatever you want to hear. But the basics are still the basics.
Right.
And health and wellness should be part of those basics, like annual physicals. I still get an annual physical because I'm half expecting bad news from all the carcinogens I was exposed to 15 and 20 years ago. And I think it's just as important for those annual physicals to be in depth and be done every year, regardless if you want to do it or not.
Right. And I think forever, like whatever your role is within the department, like if you're, you know, full on interior fireman and you're or whatever versus the operator, you know, it's the same. You know, you need to take care of yourself first, and be able to make sure that your health is there. I mean, our first, when you talk about tactics and what you're going to do on a fire, the first thing is arrive alive, right? So we have to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of everyone else. And I think that I've seen in the 6 years, and especially since starting St. Florian Fitness, there's been a big raise in awareness, I think, about health and wellness in the fire service. And that's when I talk about wellness, which is kind of a funky term. It can mean a lot of things and people use it in different ways. But for me, when I talk about wellness, I'm talking about fitness. I'm talking about our health, and I'm talking about mental health and coping skills. It's kind of like the whole holistic approach to wellness. And that's what I try to educate with my seminar and what I try to put out there on my different channels that I use.
Yeah, and if anybody hasn't seen your content, I mean, the workouts are there's no joke. But realistically, if you're in the service, if you're part of the brother and sisterhood, you should be doing something like this. You should be doing some type of cardio. You should be doing some kind of, physical training, as well as watching your nutrition. We we weren't always the best eaters, but we sure knew how to eat and eat quickly. So, and the one point I want to touch on that you had on there was about the mental health part. And I brought this up quite a few times, because I've had police officers on my show. I've had other fitness industry people on the show and talking about the mental health factor. PTSD is real.
Mm-hmm.
The burnout factor in this business is real, no matter if you want to admit to it or not. The days of suck it up and deal and move on, or go have yourself a good cry and move on, it just doesn't work. I can speak from experience of the burnout factor, and doing something in this business for 25 years. There is a burnout factor,
Right.
the bad stuff that you see. And it's important to have that support system there. And I think you are providing that support system, with that holistic approach.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. One of my favorite things is to get emails and messages from people all over the world about it. And I've gotten some wonderful feedback from folks that talk about, like, well, I see your workouts, but I'm not there yet. I can't do those things. And then I'm like, oh, sure you can. I'll show you how to scale it back so that you can start. It's
Nice.
really for everybody. A lot of my movements are based on functional. So if, some of my posts, you'll see me with like a curling bar, simulating a ceiling pull. And you'll see me show how to do different exercises that mimic overhead work, so that you're conditioning your body for overhead work. I mean, I'm 5'1", so pretty much all of my work is overhead in general in life.
I'm 5'6". It was the same way.
Yeah. So, if that's the work that you're going to be doing, then that's what you should be conditioning your body to do.
Right.
So I've gotten a lot of great positive feedback about that. And then when I talk about mental health, prior to my current position, I was a child life specialist, and I worked with families of kids that were medically fragile or had had traumatic injury. And then I worked in peds palliative care and hospice. So I have some experience in the mental health field, and especially in the area of trauma. And one of the things that I think that is not well known is that folks that are in fire and police and first responder kind of positions can get what's called secondary trauma. So you have a mindset. We all have a mindset that we can take care of others and perform well in emergency situations, and know how to make our bodies and minds work effectively under high stress, high adrenaline situations. And we do that and functionally are successful at it, as you pointed out, for many years. What we're not recognizing is that there's secondary trauma from that. So even though you can remove yourself from what's happening to the folks that you're serving at that moment, that doesn't mean that that trauma is not staying with you and affecting you.
Yep.
And acknowledging it, talking about it, and finding modalities that work for you to cope with that secondary trauma can help you prevent getting to that post-traumatic stress disorder syndrome, which really plagues so many in our community and so many of our military personnel. So it actually can be done. You can find a way to cope before it gets to that point, and cope effectively so that you can still do your job. I think there's a fear that if you're addressing those issues, it's going to take away the ability to thrive on that adrenaline and act, because you'll somehow make yourself more sensitive to what's happening to others. But really it doesn't. It just strengthens your mind and strengthens your ability to do your job well and for a longer period of time. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about surrounding trauma response in folks that are in our industry. And I really do try to educate that there's a difference, and that it's something that can be addressed and worked on without sacrificing your ability to do the job.
And along with that, I think that with the fire service being a male-dominated field, I mean, there's no two ways about it. And I don't say that lightly because I've worked with some great female firefighters, but with it being in a male dominated area for so long, a lot of the guys felt it like diminished their masculinity to talk
Yeah,
about or go talk to a therapist or somebody if you're really having a hard time. And it's not just the fire service. I mean, police, fire, EMS, it's all the same.
sure.
But man, if you don't have your head screwed on straight, how the hell are you going to help anybody else?
Right. And I think that some of the symptoms that come out of it are sometimes blamed on other things or not recognized. So sometimes sleeplessness is blamed on our crazy sleep schedules or getting woken up in the middle of the night chronically. Sometimes anxiety is blamed on edginess or too much caffeine or
Yep.
not enough sleep, things like that. Sometimes depression is brushed off or not acknowledged, or there's such a fear for the stigma attached to it
Right.
that's not talked about at all. So it will manifest into other things. I kind of liken it to an infection that's under your skin. At first, you're just going to get some redness, and you're going to say, "Oh, I banged it," or I just have a red spot on my skin, and then it's going to start to swell, and then you're going to say, "Oh, well, it's just a little bump. It's nothing. It's going to just go away on its own. It's not bothering me." And then it's going to become more and more of an issue and start to spread. And so if you address it when it's just a little redness under the skin versus when your whole arm is septic, then it's going to have a much better impact on your life, both inside and outside of the job.
And unfortunately, a lot of the folks that we work with, they start with that small spot, and then it gets bigger and bigger. And now we try to compensate with, alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, all the stuff that's not good for us. It doesn't keep us in overeating and doesn't keep us in prime condition to do the job.
Right.
But it takes away the pain.
Right. And then that's a slippery slope, because then you're impacting your body negatively. And so then you can't do the things that you normally do, and then you don't feel well, and then you're angry and upset with yourself because you're not healthy and you don't feel well and you can't do it. So it's very cyclical, and it's not helpful, really in any way. So, but if you don't know how to address those issues, and you don't have the skills to overcome and work through that, then you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of us grow up in the fire service, and it's part of our family, and it's part of what we witness from parents or grandparents. And that culture can really impact, how we cope.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think back to when I first met my wife, and she started, and I was still in the fire service then. So she started, coming to different functions with me and stuff. And she's a PE teacher, and she's a health teacher. So she's like, "That guy's a firefighter?" I'm like, "Yeah." How does he do your job?
Yeah.
I'm not sure sometimes, but and not, not picking on anyone, but just for somebody that's from outside and has no idea how the business runs, to go, how are they doing that job?
Right. And sometimes they don't know how they're doing that job. I mean, one of the things that was very important to me when I started, you mentioned, the fact that there's probably varying numbers, but 7 to 8% of all of the firefighters in the United States are female. So it's a very small number still. I myself am the only female in my department. I'm the first female line officer ever in the department's history.
Good for you.
Since 1810. And when I first got in, one of my biggest focuses was that was not going to be the most important thing or most interesting thing about me. I was very committed to learning the job, taking as many classes that I could, and absolutely not taking any allowances or shortcuts because I was a female. So I did the boot camp style training program for my initial firefighter. And I just was very insistent that I was going to earn everything that I got in the fire service. I think it's a detriment to female firefighters when they are given the option to do the push-ups on their knees or only do 5 minutes of the stair climb versus the full CPAT. I think it's a detriment to us because you're setting yourself up for failure. This is an end results job. So it really doesn't matter if male or female. If you can do the job and get the job done, that's all that's important. So for me, being that I'm a female and that I wasn't born with the same style upper body strength as a male, and I'm only 5'1", my goal for my training became that I needed to increase my upper body strength. I needed to change the way that I was doing some of my workouts because, as I mentioned, I was like, a runner, did boot camp, I was like, oh yeah, I'm fit, but when you have a 135-pound charge line and 65 pounds of gear on, nobody cares if you can run 13 miles. That really doesn't
not
make
at all.
a crap load of difference at that time. So, and most of the guys on my department are a lot bigger than me. So can I get them out? That was heavy on my mind. If I can't deadlift and if I can't drag them out, I shouldn't be going in with them. So that was a huge focus of mine and very prevalent in the work that I was doing to train because it's 2 in and 2 out, and that was not optional for me. So in light of that, whether you're male or female, if you are not in good physical condition and you can't get your partner out, that should be on the forefront of your mind.
I was just getting ready to jump out of my chair while you're saying all that because you get me all fired up. Because no, it's fine. I'm still passionate about the business, even though I'm probably 5 years removed. But I think about everything you just said, and I'll relate it on the male side of things because hopefully that stigma for the female firefighters is leaving. But on the male side of things, I'm 5'6". When I got in the fire service at 18 years old, I was 130 pounds. So you put 65 pounds of gear on me, and I was like, I was surprised I didn't fall over. Right. So for me, it was there really wasn't a lot of direction as far as physical fitness at that time. It was you had to just be a tough SOB and be able to keep up with the guys around you. And I had the same exact thought and really went in, what was it, 2000. Probably right around 2005 when I started really working out a lot, was a thought of, if I can't get my partner out when they need help, what good am I? Right. And it goes back to the same thought I had as was, nobody's dying while I'm on my watch. It's just not happening. I used to be a huge pain in the ass about safety, but nobody was getting hurt. I was not going to explain to someone's family why they got hurt or killed. And it's I used to joke with a couple of guys that if I couldn't get them out and we were on the second floor, I'd just get them to the top of the stairs and kick them down the stairs because I'd rather have a broken arm than die of heat. So
if you can get their upper body hanging out a window and have somebody come grab them, you're at least doing something. But you've got to be able to do something. Yeah. Right? And, I mean, and people talk about, well, we hardly ever have structure fires anymore. Well, yeah, but we don't know what the heck is going to happen when we go on that EMS call. Right. We have no idea what is waiting for us on the other side of that door. And in today's world, you don't know what's going to happen when you go into someone else's home and they're not in a good place mentally or physically. So God forbid, if you're in a situation like that, it doesn't matter the type of call. The point is that if you're not conditioning your body to that level of readiness, that when you demand your body provide that for you, it's not going to be able to.
Yeah, and the house fires or the structure fires are the most extreme conditions you're going to have to perform in. But like you said, you could go to a car crash and you got to be able to set up around the car crash and extricate someone. And there's a lot of tools that go along with that. And if you can't sit there for 15 or 20 minutes, however long it takes to pop a door or take a roof or whatever, you're not doing the crew any good.
Right. Even basic things. Can you bend down in your gear and get yourself back up? Yeah. Can you with your partner, take a roof off a car and carry it away from the scene? Can you do that? There's many, many things that you have to really be able to do. And I think it's even more essential. Like a lot of times people will ask me like, well, why is it so important for volunteers? I think it's even more important for volunteers because we're not necessarily training daily, like a lot of prayer shifts. We'll have, you're training while you're on duty. We're doing our training separately. I think it's even more important though, because if you're getting that blast page in the middle of the night and it wakes you up out of a sound sleep and you've got that cardiac shock load of adrenaline that's flushing through your body, and
I
then
don't miss that.
and then you're trying to just use that to get you through. I can tell you it's not gonna get you through. If you have a 30-minute bottle and you're done in 10 minutes or you're done in 5 minutes, we're not, I mean, up in our area where we live, we are not like FDNY. We're not like large cities where you have 4 or 5 or 6 engines on the first bell and 40, 50 guys available to you. So you can, if you have to tap out, there's a whole line of people waiting to come in and take your place. You may have 3 guys on an engine in the middle of the day at a structure fire.
Oh yeah, been there, done that. You're waiting for backup that may or may not show up, and you're in for a little while.
Right. You need to be able to make sure that you're maximizing that bottle so that you can fight that fire until help arrives. So in response to that, I think it's actually even more important for volunteer firefighters to have good physical fitness, because it's not going to be necessarily a daily thing for you. So you're asking a lot out of your body if you're only asking it to be physical once a week or once a month or whatever your department's, is like. I mean, I have a fairly busy department in terms of our county. We go on a lot of calls. I'm very active in the fire department myself. So for me, it's putting a lot of demand at, all the time. Maybe other rural fire departments where you only get a few calls, a handful of calls a year. Is your body ready to handle that?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's so many jars to the system within this business. First, like you said, the bell in the middle of the night or the pager in the middle of the night, the extreme conditions, either hot or cold. And then, and then who knows what, right, exactly. And then who knows what characters you're going to run into depending on the call that you go on, that you have to deal with as well. Yeah.
And that first initial 30 minutes of a structure fire, if you're on attack or search, you're working hard. But then when you come out, it's time to switch your bottle. Guess what? You've got another 2 or 3 hours of overhaul to do. I mean, we've all been on fires where you're out all night long, and you're, moving, and then you got to get back to the station and everything's got to be clean and repacked. So you're asking your body to do difficult, challenging work for an extended period of time, and you should be training for that.
Yeah. And I also think about like the guys and girls that would try to skirt around rehab. They go through 2 bottles and they know they had to go sit in rehab and have their blood pressure taken, but they tried to sneak around the trucks and go get a 3rd bottle and then go back to work because they didn't want to go sit in rehab. Right. But I've also seen a number of issues get caught in rehab that could have turned out a lot worse. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we have them on scene at the larger incidences for a reason, and if you can, like, to your point, if you're going to go home and then just get right back in bed, was there a missed opportunity to check your vitals? Was there a missed opportunity to see an arrhythmia before it became worse? I think those folks are vital, the rehab and having ALS rigs, not just for victims, but for the firefighters.
Yeah. And it's real fun. It's real exciting to go from 0 to 100 and be out there doing it. But to go from 100 to 0, that's taxing. Depending on the body, that's taxing.
Right. And when you have a lot of adrenaline and cortisol coursing through your system for whatever extended period of time, when you're finally asking your body to rest and relax and get back to just a normal homeostasis, it's a lot. There's a lot of leftover natural chemicals that are in your body that haven't been processed through. And, if you're going back to the station and slamming a Mountain Dew because you got to stay awake because now you go to work, and you're not drinking water, and you're not hydrating throughout the day to keep your body at a good hydration status, that's when you really have those cardiac and medical issues occur as well. And people, when I talk about nutrition, there's 1,000. I think one of the things is it gets really confusing for people because, should they do keto? Should they do Atkins? Should they do, paleo? Like there's 1,000 different things. And then next month there'll be 24 other new things that you can do. And I personally, this is just my personal opinion, I am not in favor of those type of restricted, occlusive diets for long-term success. And that's just my opinion. So what I recommend is try to focus on whole foods, actual foods that are minimally processed, and stuff that you like and you want to eat, and try to do 80-20. 80% of the time you're eating healthy fruits and vegetables and lean meats and lean proteins, because there's no arguing that that's the best healthy diet that you can be on. If you're
100%.
Right. I mean,
and it's
nobody will dispute that for you. And then 20% of the time, you're maybe getting a pizza and wings, or you're, having that little bit of ice cream or whatever. But if 80% of the time you're feeding your body healthy whole foods that are minimally processed, that's a win. And it's very easy to do, and it's very easy to stick to.
Yeah. To me, it's portion control and move your body. Well, I mean, just do something, and don't, when you sit down, remember meals in some firehouses, we'd get like steak and cheese sandwiches, and you order 2 for everyone, and we'd eat 2 for everyone. It's like, oh.
Well, and everybody has different caloric intake needs. And the interesting thing for me is when you look at all these diets, like whatever they're, like Weight Watchers or keto or whatever, the basis of every single diet out there that's marketed to be like the most successful plan is calorie reduction. It's really just calorie deficit. All of them are just, only thing they have in common is calorie deficit. So if you want to lose weight, then you need to reduce the amount of calories that you're taking in, and you need to increase the calories that you're burning. So you need to eat less calories and move more. Now, for some people, where they get hung up is you can actually end up eating more food that's less calorie dense. So if you are eating more fruits and vegetables, you feel like you're eating all day long and you're taking in a ton of food, but it's actually because it's versus a $200 or 200 calorie, candy bar versus 200 calories of berries. It's like a big, it's like a really, and they think, well, I can't only eat, half a cup of strawberry. Nobody's telling you got to eat half a cup of strawberries. You can eat a salad as big as your head, and fill it with whatever vegetables and tastes that you want to, but it's filling your body that way versus eating a bag of chips. Just, I mean, I'm just I'm very, especially for firefighters and first responders, I'm just for a common sense approach, and when you have to grab and go, if you're on an EMS rig or whatever, I think fortunately there's a lot more options now than there ever were before. If you can only stop at a gas station, you can usually find a single serve cup of yogurt or a single serve, thing of like cheese and nuts or, something like that to grab and go instead. And so, it's just starting to learn how to make those choices versus going to the EMS room and getting that sleeve of Oreos.
We always got very good in the fire service, the pizza and wings. That's all we ever ate, pizza and wings.
Yep. And that's fine. I'm not, I love who doesn't love a good chicken wing, but it's not an everyday food. Right.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's 100% spot on. So in a perfect world, where would you like to see the the health and fitness, health and wellness space within the fire service go to?
I think ideally I would like to see it as a requirement to be an active fireman. I don't think that you have to make it like crazy difficult for people to try to achieve. Some people, no matter how physically fit they are and how healthy they are never going to be able to do a pull-up, right? But let's make it make sense. Can you put on your gear and put a bottle on and do a breathe down drill once a year to show me that you can carry a high-rise pack up and down a flight of stairs a few times? Can you put on that pack and show me how that you can drag a dummy 500 feet or whatever it is, 10 feet. I don't know. I mean, victims are 10 feet within the door, right? So can you do it 10 feet? Can you do it 10 feet 5 times? Because you've got 5 victims. I would like to see the physical fitness, CPAT, TOAC, like whatever you'd call it. I would like to see that be functional and indicative of the work we are asking our bodies to do. I would like everybody to be able to do it once a year to show that they are fit and healthy, and include it as part of the physical examination even, if you're going to get your physical every year. We have a group that comes to the firehouse and does our physicals right there in the firehouse. So I'd love to see them, add that in with a CPAT or TOAC drill, to put that in the file as well, to say, they passed their physical with flying colors, but they couldn't get the high-rise pack up the stairs. So what I would like to see come from that requirement is not punitive, like you can't get on the engine.
Right.
That's not helpful for folks. And especially in the volunteer service where we are really low on numbers and trying to recruit, what I would like to see is, hey, I noticed that was a struggle for you, but drags weren't. When can we get together and start working on some overhead work?
Yeah.
Mentoring your members, mentoring your firemen, and showing them that you're in it with them and that you want to encourage skill development and not take it a punitive approach of you're not good enough is I think hugely important for success. And I think it makes people want to strive to do better. Like nobody joined wanting to be a bag of shit, right? Like nobody's in this to be like, I want to be the worst firefighter you have ever seen. Like, I just want to be able to not be able to do anything. And you got to get me new pants every year. Like nobody wants that. Right. But they don't know where to start. And if you have leadership in your department that can say like, hey, let's work on it. I'll meet you down here. I want to work on it too. I go out and I train at fire departments. You mentioned Manlius. Manlius was one of my departments that I've worked with as a trainer.
So maybe that's where that's stuck in my brain.
I had an excellent group there that I trained with every Saturday. We did 30 minutes of high intensity interval training that was firefighter functional based. And it was great. And they kind of continued it, and they got, more members in and involved in it. And, that's been awesome to do that. And I think that, hi, Chris. I think that if you can start that kind of culture shift, that it's a positive, encouraging thing that you are wanting to do it with your departments, that's where I'd like to see this end up eventually.
So, I hope if there's any chief officers that are watching this, that you were taking notes, because chief officers need to take vested interest in their people, and that includes their health and their wellness. And like I said before, you don't want it to be on your watch that somebody drops and you got to explain to their family that they didn't make it home.
Right.
So I hope anybody that's listening and you're in charge of a department somewhere, that you took notes on that, because if you're not doing it, if your department's not doing it, they should be. And that's just the long and the short of that.
Yeah. It's a great recruitment tool too. Physical fitness, a lot of people want to join gyms and want to, figure out how to get healthier. And if you're providing that for your membership, it's a great recruitment tool too, to say, we've got a gym here, or we all get together and work out together. And it's, it's a great way to build the brotherhood and build camaraderie.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kara, I thank you for joining me and spending a little bit of time here. I always try to keep mindful of my guest time, and because I'm sure I could just go on and on and on about different things. And I do have plans here in the short term of getting a group of firefighters within like a roundtable setting on the podcast to talk shop, to talk about what it used to be, what I can talk about used to be back in the day, to what it is now, and everything in between. So I might have you come back on for that one too.
Sure. Yeah.
So how would people connect with you if they were looking to connect with you, either on social or otherwise?
Yeah, thanks. Follow me on Instagram at St. Florian Fitness or on Facebook at St. Florian Fitness. I'm active in my messages there as well, so that you can reach out to me. If you have a department that would like to do a seminar on physical fitness, health, and wellness, I am doing those again, especially now as things are starting to open up with COVID. So you can reach out to me there and book some time. I offer 2-hour seminars. I offer a half-day session, which includes a workout or a yoga session. It's up to the department. So there's some couple options there. And if anybody out there is just struggling and doesn't know how to get started and just needs a little bit of help, please reach out to me, because I do this because I really want to reduce any chance of a line of duty death in any way that I can be a part of that.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Hey, guys and girls in the fire service, do your best to take care of yourselves, because you don't want a short life, and we should all be living to we're 86 years old and not dying after retirement at 65. So if you need help, reach out to Kara, and just connect with her and ask questions, because I think that's where the best conversations start, is asking questions. So with that, again, I thank you for joining me here today. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad we could put this together. I definitely would love to continue this conversation again. So with that, guys, we'd love to hear your comments. Drop some comments in. Share this with anybody you might feel would get any kind of value out of it in my episode number 59 here. So with that, everyone, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have a great day.
Thank you.